Hi folks, John Cordisco back again with another great chess video for you. This is round 4 of the 5th London Classic Tournament 2013, the London Chess Classic. It's a great tournament. This year they used the rapid format. I picked this game because one, it's my buddy Nigel Short. I don't think I've ever done a game with Nigel. And white is David Howell, current British champion. Nigel, as I'll remember from the early 90s, was the world champion challenger to Garry Kasparov. Unfortunately didn't make it, but I like Nigel. I like him a lot. I think he's a funny guy. And with this 20-minute, 10-second increment time control, it makes for some fun chess. It's really tough on the players, a lot of mistakes, but it's a lot of fun to watch. So let's get to it. Howell is white, Nigel Short is black. It's going to be a Scotch game. Knight takes, bishop, knight takes, pawn, bishop, knight e7, castles, castles. Maybe a quarter of a pawn advantage according to the computer for white, so we'll say it's even because white always has an advantage at the beginning. Knight to c3, pawn up. Interesting, this bishop here though. I've done that myself sometimes. He's kind of a large pawn right now, but he's, as the one GM, I forget his name, a Russian I think, says, well, your bishop is a giant pawn. He says, yeah, and it's also defending a very important pawn, which is that e4 pawn, the only center pawn that white has. Queen e2, knight g6, bishop, bishop back. Of course, black wants white to take here, so he can retake and straighten out his pawns again. f4, king h8, rook a to e1. Black's a little cramped, but I think Nigel's okay here. f5. This is the fun part about rapid. You can just go for it. And David Howell is notorious for being in time trouble. I mean notorious, even a long time control. So I think this is part of Nigel's strategy. g3 secures this square here from the knight. Queen f6. If he had gone d5 instead, bishop takes, a takes. Always, in this case, take toward the center. And also opens up the file here, which is the other reason. E, bishop, bishop takes, rook takes, a3. I kind of like that a little better for white, to be honest with you. I think it's easier to play. After queen to f6, g2, queen to g2, rook to b8. I think it's interesting, instead of rook to b8, excuse me, is pawn takes, bishop takes, e takes, bishop takes, pawn takes, queen takes, and bishop to h3. Now that's a weird sequence with a tiny advantage for white. After rook to b8, bishop takes. He took with a rook, which really surprised me, even though the rook's on the b file. I would have taken with the a pawn or the c pawn just to get my pawns together. Knight to d1. Let's go back just for curiosity. The computer shows that the rook takes b6 is the best move. That's why Nigel played for the World Championship and I didn't. Personal taste. Rook takes, knight to d1. As the one English commentator says, we're going to recycle that knight. Bishop a6. Bishop takes, rook takes, a3. Maybe a 3/4 pawn advantage for white here. It's an interesting position. I just don't care for all these pawn islands. One here, and one here. Too many pawn islands for me. Queen to d4. Get that queen right out in the center of the board. It will do the most good. King moves. Knight to e7. Rook to e3. Rook. He's trying to disrupt the queen side, Nigel is. White's queen side. Rook f to e1. h6. b3. Rook back, get your rooks together. A4. Looks like David Howell is doing well here. Queen to B6. Knight to B2. The knight's coming back around. C5. G4. F takes. Queen takes. Queen C6. And you can see, of course, there's a pin here on the E-pawn against the king. Nigel's just trying to get some counterplay here. Rook to G1. I think David's holding his own, but if I remember at this point, David was down to about a minute, minute and a half. Nigel maybe had 4 or 5 minutes left. And remember, you get a 10-second increment. That's 10 seconds added on to each move. Or every time you move, it's added on. Rook to F7. David, or I should say Nigel, doubles up the rooks on the F file. Knight to D3. C4. He's trying to bust up the queenside pawns of white. B takes, queen takes. C5. Excuse me. As you can see, this rook here is doing very good duty. It's coming down this file and guarding the C2 pawn. Queen to D4. Get that queen right in the action. Rook to E1. Right now, according to the computer, it's about as close as you can get. 0.00. It's dead drawn right now. But David is out of time, basically. He's playing on the increment. A5. Get that distraction of A-pawn coming down the board. If D takes, that fails too. Knight there. And black's in horrible shape. You see why Nigel didn't take the pawn. C takes, queen to E6. White wants to go E5. Knight to G8. I think he maybe should have went A4, continue on down, and rook to G3 would have been a good continuation. After knight to G8, he gives White a little bit of room here. But I think David pushes the wrong pawn. He pushes the F pawn instead of the E pawn. After E5, rook to E7, queen takes, E takes, rook takes, knight takes. Interesting there. Very interesting. I'd rather play white in this, of course. It's a lot easier. After F5, rook to E7, threatening the queen. Queen moves. Knight to F6. Now he goes E5. I think he went the wrong order. He should have went E5 first and then maybe F5. Knight to F4 would have been interesting. Because after rook to A8, knight to E6, it's getting a little tight. It shows an advantage for black in that one, interesting enough. E5, D takes, rook B7. And this is where David stumbles. Right now it's a tiny advantage for black, about a quarter pawn. David goes rook to E1, which drops it below a pawn, advantage a pawn to the third for black. That was a major mistake. It's in time trouble. I think he had 24 seconds left, if I recall. He should have played rook takes A5, knight to D5, rook to G1, keeps it alive. After rook to E1, A4. And then David stumbles again in the time pressure. He probably should have played rook G to G1, just connecting his rooks. He plays queen to G3. Huge mistake. Now Nigel goes rook to E8. Knight to E5. And the points are just piling up now for black. He's almost 6 points ahead. As we all know, a rook is 5. So basically he's doomed. Excuse me. What he should have played was rook takes, knight takes, queen to E1, knight to F6. He's still down over 2 points, but at least that was a lot better than what happened. After knight to E5, king to G8 for black. Nigel now is in the driver's seat. Rook G to E2, connecting his rooks. Rook B to E7, doubling up the rooks. Rook to G2. If knight to F3, maybe White's last gasp. Queen to c5, rook to e6, rook takes, pawn takes. Still almost a 3-point advantage for black. After rook to g2, knight to h5 for short, queen to g6. If he had gone queen to g4, queen takes. If he trades queens, rook takes, and white is doomed. If he had played knight takes instead, rook takes, rook to g1, you can see that's over, of course. After queen to g6, rook takes, double up. Looks like white's got something here, but actually the score is almost 8 points ahead for black. Rook to e1. As you can see, this knight's doing tremendous duty guarding this square. And with the queen here, rook here, and rook here, white is doomed. Excuse me. h3 to make an escape square for whatever it's worth. If he had gone f6 in desperation, queen to d5, f7 check, queen takes, king takes, rook f2 check, knight f6, and that's doomed after rook to f3. White's got no chance. After h3, rook takes check, rook takes, rook to e2, queen to c6, and queen to e4 check. And this is where David Howell, current British champion, resigns to Nigel Short, former world champion challenger. It was a hell of a game. Granted, this isn't the best chess in the world, but it's really exciting to watch. I love to watch these guys play rapid. I'll tell you the truth, their lousy rapid play is better than my good slow play. It's just fun to watch. I'm sure it's nerve-wracking for those guys. In case you're wondering why he resigned after queen to e4, queen, rook takes, and black is up a whole night. There's nothing really that white can do. He has to trade queens, and that he's doomed. So that's the game for today, folks. I hope you enjoyed it. It was really fun to watch. I want you all to remember that if you think chess is just a game, you're not playing it right. And I want to thank all my new subscribers. And if you haven't subscribed, please do. Take care, folks. Bye-bye.